Greetings and happy Monday to you. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and you're the key person in every one of our shows. Just hope you keep that in mind. I am Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani. The show team is in place, and we are going to start the brand new broadcast week with a topic, a question for you that we know a lot of you are going to be able to relate to. Maybe not everybody, well, certainly not everybody, but Debbie, we have a topic that is, I think, going to elicit a lot of beautiful, beautiful stories today.
I completely agree with you, Jerry. How was your weekend?
My weekend was very good, yeah. Got
Cool.
a lot of stuff done around the house and,
Nice.
Got a little extra rest.
Good. And we're in this week we're getting prepared for Memorial Day weekend.
That's right.
That's always a big weekend out here in Arizona where everybody takes off. You see everybody on the streets ready to go. They leave like Friday morning and they're off for that weekend. It's kind of fun. Jerry, we're talking about being adopted today. And we want, this is what's beautiful about Take Two. We love to get involved and we are interested in your life journey. So if you have been adopted, if you are adopted and you have grown up in a beautiful adoptive family, we'd like to hear everything about that. Okay? The good, the bad, and the ugly, because sometimes it happens. I'll share a bit about my first cousins. And I will share that. My first cousins are adopted. On my mom's side of the family, my mom's sister was unable to have children of her own, and she adopted two beautiful children, a boy and a girl. They weren't, biologically related. One was from Italy. They adopted one from Italy.
Wow.
Yeah, and one from America, and I'll share that story. And they were our first cousins. We grew up with them. But we want to hear your story. Have you been adopted? Tell us your journey. 833-288-3986.
Yeah, we may not know from experience what it's like to be adopted, but there are a lot of dynamics that kind of unfold in that particular scenario, such as do you know who your biological mother or father are? When did you learn that you were adopted? I know a gentleman. I believe that he has actually had some feelings. He's had to work through, Debbie, of feeling a little bit unwanted by his biological mother. That sometimes it comes into play in adoptive situations. But we'd love to hear you talk about the gratitude and love that you have toward your adoptive parents and family. And what about blending into a biological family of children from that mother and that father? How did that go for you? 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
So if you were adopted, this is your time to share with the world about your life. And we want to know. We care. We are interested. We want to learn. We want to grow. You do not have to be Catholic to call in. Please, though, the phone lines fill up very quickly. Rich Jesse does his best to get everybody screened, ready to go, and come on the air with us. But please, don't hesitate. If you're adopted, this is your time. This is your moment. 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
Many other ways you can contact us as well. If you're watching the video stream on the EWTN Catholic Radio Facebook or YouTube channels, you can post your comments there. Our social media manager, Jeff Burson, will get some of those over to us. And you can also email us, take2@EWTN.com. You can text the letters EWTN to 55000. There might be a small data rate that applies, but just listen for a response and then put your comments in there. So also take2show.com if you want to post there. But most people go the traditional route to get on the air at 833-288-3986.
And if I get this story correct, I hope I correctly be able to share this. My first cousins were both adopted. They weren't brother and sister, biological, connected in that way. But my cousin, the oldest, it was a boy. I'll keep their names, private. He was adopted from an orphanage in Italy. His sisters had run it, nuns had run it, but unfortunately, my cousin, he wasn't. He didn't bond very well in the beginning because there was in the orphanages, it was very hard for people to connect and hold the babies, and so he had that detachment kind of thing happening, and that was really tough on him. And then my aunt adopted my cousin, female cousin. She's precious, absolutely precious. She's amazingly successful and has a wonderful family of her own. And I think there was a little bit of maybe jealousy there a little bit when they were growing up, because my aunt tended to favor my oldest cousin because of his upbringing, because of how he came into the world, and it was tough. And so there was a little bit of animosity there, but it turned out okay, great. They very faithful family, and everybody got along. And that was the uncle that I just shared last week that passed away. He was my Uncle John, who adopted my two cousins. As growing up, we never, ever, ever really thought of them as being adopted. They were our family. Never thought of it. But they did. They actually felt a little bit different. And I don't know how, maybe that's just something that just happens innately. I don't know. And that's what I would love to talk to people that are adopted, if they just down deep feel a little bit different from, biological families. What do you think about that, Jerry?
Well, I often wonder about that, and I do believe that there can be some of those dynamics that you were talking about there. Obviously, the opposite can be the case as well. Any parents who have, if maybe they don't have kids, if they do have other kids, I would think if most families are going to go, I would say maybe a little bit extra in terms of showing love and showering blessings upon an adopted child, because so many of them come out of difficult situations and circumstances. Some, it's maybe you were adopted, and you look back now and you're grateful to your biological mother, your birth mother, because maybe she said, you know what, I don't have the means right now. My life is not in order to raise a baby, or whatever the reason was. She obviously chose life, and that's the beautiful thing about that. And so maybe you look back and you say, I thank God for my biological mother giving me life and having the courage, the courage to place me for adoption.
That's right. That's right. And I hope I explained my family situation with still keeping their anonymity. They didn't ask to be on a on a radio show, so I want to make sure. But yeah, if you have been adopted, we want to hear from you. 2 open phone lines. That's it to get on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on this wonderful Monday. 833-288-3986.
Parents, when your kids seem really uncorrectable, it's not always coming from a place of belligerence. Sometimes it's coming from self-loathing, which studies show is more common among kids than ever before. And if that's their headspace, they're not fighting you. They're fighting the notion that they stink, and that this mess up is just another proof of how messed up they are. With that in mind, one of my kids messed up really bad the other day, and instead of pointing out to her what she had done wrong, I decided to point out first how much I loved her, how much God loves her. I caught her off guard when I said, "You're good, you're lovable. There's nothing wrong with you. You're going to be okay." I was amazed at how her guard went down and how easy it was to correct her behavior after that. Don't get me wrong, you need to set boundaries, but you might want to attack them with love first and then correct them. You'll be amazed at how differently that can pan out sometimes. This is Chris Stefanik from reallifecatholic.com.
He was a doctor of the church and one of the most famous saints of all time.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Augustine is honored for his immense contributions to theology, but he balanced his genius with humility. He once declared, "It was pride that changed angels into devils. It is humility that makes men as angels." He died in 461.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Thanks for joining us for Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN. The show team I mentioned is in place. Michael Birchfield, our producer. Jeff Burson is watching your social media comments. And Rich Jesse is screening your calls at 833-288-3986. And real quick, before we go to the phones, you can join a deeper conversation about the most consequential issues facing Catholics today. Get EWTN News in depth delivered to your inbox with details on each week's show covering the topics that are important to you. Go to EWTN.com/in-depth and sign up today for EWTN News in-depth right straight into your computer email inbox.
Love that. Okay, there's one open phone line. So here's what it is. Here's the deal. If you feel prompted by the Spirit, if you've been adopted, please share. Please share. We don't believe there's any accident, okay? This show has been happening for almost 6 years because we really believe it's Holy Spirit inspired. So if you feel that little nudge, you may be just the perfect person to call in today. Here's the number, 833-288-3986. There you go.
Yeah, and one more thing quickly before we go to Cheryl. Today is the Feast of Mary, Mother of the Church, and it's an opportunity for all of us to celebrate our spiritual adoption. Let's keep that in mind. Mary is our spiritual mother. God, of course, we are adopted sons and daughters of God as well. So I think we didn't plan it this way on this particular feast day to do this show topic, but
Right.
it worked out.
It always
Providentially,
happens.
just like Debbie was talking about, the Holy Spirit's in charge. Okay, Cheryl in Little Rock, Arkansas, listening on Sirius XM 130. Go first, Cheryl. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Debbie and Jerry. I'm
Hi
so
there.
glad to talk to y'all. And can y'all hear me?
Quite well.
Okay, great. Yes, I was so excited about this topic because I was adopted, and I was adopted at like 6 months old, and I ended up being the only child all through my years, and of course, you can imagine, you get all the special treatment and everything for Christmas is all about, it's a big Christmas for me, and nobody, but it was sad because you don't have brothers and sisters as you're growing up. So the biggest thing that I faced was when I got older was when I would have people at work or something in some kind of environment, and they would just be like a kind of how they do their siblings, and I would take it to heart, and I would just go home crying, and everything. They're picking on me, and all this kind of stuff. And it was very hard for me to kind of learn how to deal with that because I didn't have siblings to deal with, and those kind of, and then my friends were I took them to heart, very close to me. I was so desperate to have somebody, call me, their friend and things because I never had that closeness growing up.
Wow, really, what a story, Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining us. I just love the enthusiasm you had for the topic today. And yeah, you were adopted at a very, very young age, and you mentioned living as an only child. It had its benefits, of course, like you said. The focus was kind of on you most of the time, especially around Christmas time and all of that. But it's like you were talking about. Your friends sort of became your siblings, some of them anyway. It sounds like what you're saying. And in God's mysterious design, we don't know why He has things work out the way that they do, but it's certainly we can believe that God's purpose and plan for you is that you've been living that out in your very unique way and very different way from a lot of other people. So, what do you think, Debbie?
Yeah, I totally agree. And Cheryl, here I noticed on the comments, your adoptive mom, you lost her in January, Cheryl?
Yes, I lost my mom in January, and she was the last one. My adopted dad that I grew up with, and then I had a stepfather. She was with him for the first one she was with for 38 years, and then she was with her second husband for 20 years. And so when she passed, this has taken me very hard. It's very hard. And I never knew my adopted family. My mom could only give me bits and pieces and even a nickname of my real mother, but it was weird because my adopted grandparents knew this my real mother in some way, and she just happened to be babysitting me, and she asked my dad, my mother never came back for me, and then they found her dead, and she had died from alcoholism. So,
Wow. How sad. How tragic.
And I'm supposed to have what my mom said. I'm supposed to have like 10 brothers and sisters, and that's weird how she would say that, but I've never been able to find nobody, and I don't know. I think I should do some research and.
Well, maybe with that ancestry and all that kind of stuff that's out there right now, with all of those programs and places that can help search. Who knows? But Cheryl, we're so sorry for the loss of your mom. Are you able to give us her first name? We would be so honored to enter her into the book.
Yes, her name's Anne.
Anne. Oh, great name. Great name, Cheryl. Yes. Cheryl, can I ask?
I think about St. Anne.
Yeah. Can I ask you a very quick question? Because we do have full phone lines, but I want to ask you a quick question just because I shared at the beginning that my first cousins were adopted, and we always just totally embraced them and accepted them as they were our biological cousins. We just never thought of it that way. It was really strange for all of us. I don't know how my family is. Well, we're very, very welcoming, always have been that way. But let me ask you this question. Did you ever have, as a small child, that desire to find your birth mother?
Yes, I did. And my mother, I think, was very intimidated by it, and she was afraid that I would leave, because I would usually say, I want to find my real mother and all this, and so that's where the story came up, that she passed away. I don't know. I will never know the truth, if really she did, or if that was the way my mom tried to protect herself and not have me search for the biological family.
Right.
There seems to be a clue, but there seems to be a mystery. I mean, that is never been solved.
Right. Well, I just want to say real quickly, Cheryl, that's exactly what happened in my family situation. My aunt did not want my cousin to find her biological mother, even though she was probably a state away from New Jersey. She was in the area. Because she felt she loved my cousin so very much. She was really in fear that she was going to lose that connection, and she didn't want to do that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's so true. Because my mother was so protective of me growing up. I mean, she was just like a mother hen, protecting me, all through my years, and never let me venture very far.
Well, you were blessed in that, Cheryl. She had obviously a great love and just wanted you to be safe and grow up happy. So thank you, Cheryl. Yes. Thank you for the call, Cheryl. This has been a beautiful way to start this conversation, and we hope that you will keep listening to Take Two and definitely call the show again sometime. 833-288-3986. Were you adopted? We are asking for your the account of that. Certainly can't take a lot of time to go into all of the details, but we'd love to hear what you have to say, what your experience has been as an adoptive son or a daughter of a family of a parent or both parents. 833-288-3986. Margot is next in Nacogdoches, Texas, listening on Holy Name Radio. Hello, Margot. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to share the story of my grandfather. He was born during World War I, and he was left on a Lazy Susan at the foundry in New York City. They had so many children, cribs right next to each other. He never learned to walk. And so what the sisters did there is they would take children and put them on the orphan train. And each child was sent to different parts of the country to people who wanted to adopt them. They had a adopted parent at the other end. And when my grandfather got to around Marksville, Louisiana, the children sometimes were paraded and checked out to see how healthy they were by the adoptive parents. And since my grandfather could not walk, his adopted parents turned him down. So the priest of the diocese of the parish, he went to my great-grandparents and said, will you take care of this baby until I found a new family for him? And my great-grandmother said yes. And when he came back about 3 or 4 days later to pick up my grandfather, Adrian, my great-grandmother said, no, you can't have him. He's ours. And so she kept him. And he had a wonderful life. He was, when they would come to check to see if he was in good hands, he would go hide in the field so they couldn't find him because he was afraid that they would take him away. So he was very talented. He was musically inclined, and he taught himself the violin and the harmonica and learned the organ in his 60s. But he was always ashamed of being adopted. I don't think he ever got over the fact that his parents gave him up. But they couldn't take care of him, so they did the best that they could. So my great-grandparents adopted him.
Wow.
And the orphan train is not taught in school. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those orphan trained children became very famous and successful. And one of them was Joe Aye at Louisiana Tech. Football stadium's named after him. And so there's a lot of great stories, and there's a lot of sad stories.
Yeah, I bet.
But
I bet.
wanted to share fathers.
Margot, can you share your grandfather's first name so we can celebrate his life?
Adrian.
Adrian, beautiful. Well, I'm so. Huh? Go ahead.
The LeMoyne family adopted him, and his birth name was Yust, Y-U-E-S-T.
Wow. Well, I am so happy that your grandfather thrived because you're here, Margot, telling the story. You see how beautiful that is?
And he was a great man. He worked very hard, and he and my grandmother, Mary Eunice, were very successful and were able to take care of their families. And he did everything on a waiter's salary and tips from the Roosevelt Hotel in New Orleans.
Wow. Well, I tell you what an incredible story, and so happy to hear that your grandfather was so successful, and the other details that you shared. And you mentioned, Margot, his being ashamed of being adopted, and I just have to believe, having not experienced it, but I have to believe that it's really probably a difficult sort of tight wire act to walk. You know, on the one hand, you have that sense of, well, why didn't my parents keep me? They must have not have wanted me. Maybe shame can come in there, but also on the other side, God willing, that great joy and gratitude that one has for the family that they're adopted into. So that was it's just an amazing, incredible story, Margot.
A great life. He was a great man. He did a great job.
Praise God. Praise God.
Thank you, Margot. Thank you for stepping up and sharing today. We really appreciate it.
Thank y'all. You have a blessed day.
You too. You too. Okay, we have an open phone line for you if you've been adopted or, one of your family members was adopted. Share the story. 833-288-3986. That's the number to call to be on the show. Rich Jesse will answer your call. He'll speak to you for just a few minutes, and then he'll put you on hold. You'll get to listen live, and then you get just slip right into the conversation. That's the way we do things. That's the way we roll here at Take Two. So please join us. We're fun. I think we're fun. Are we fun?
That's what people tell us.
We laugh
at
the silliest things. You know that? Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The littlest things just make us giggle.
Yeah. Well, life is good, and you have to laugh a little bit, even when so many crazy things are going on around us. Before we go back to the phones,
Yes.
You mentioned, Debbie, you always say this, and you said it at the start of this show. We want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we've heard a lot of good testimonies here on the show today, and I know we're going to hear more. But maybe there's someone listening for whom it didn't go so well. I mean,
That's right.
we're not trying to drag you through any painful memories or anything, but I have a very, very dear friend, and he adopted a boy who was actually already about 7 or 8 or 9 years old when he adopted him.
That's right.
And from the outside, I could see that there were red flags of behavior and things like this. And because he and his wife were trying to get pregnant and they could not, and then when they were going through the adoption process, as it so often happens, they got pregnant. Yeah, and so they went ahead with the adoption of the older boy, and he actually at one point a few years later ended up falsely accusing my good friend of abusing him sexually, and my friend spent 7 years in a state prison. So. It's these unfortunate things do happen. Unfortunately they do. But we want to hear, we want to hear
All
your
sides
great,
of it.
both sides of it, but especially just the gratitude and the love that you have for the parents who adopted you. Maybe they had other kids, the family you grew up in, the opportunities that they gave you. 833-288-3986. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
This is Montse Alvarado from EWTN News in Depth.
I'm Alan Holdren, EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief.
This is Tracy Sable from EWTN News Nightly.
Get trusted Catholic news every day on EWTN television and radio.
Take Two, family. Did you know we have a book and fellowship club? Log on to standtalltoday.com and click on the book club tab to join us. Each month, our facilitator Gigi picks another must-read book. We gather on Facebook at the end of the month to share our thoughts and reflections. Plus, there's great fellowship throughout the entire month. Join the Inspired by Faith Book and Fellowship Club today at standtalltoday.com. Just click on the book club tab at the top of the page.
60 on 10 with Monsignor Charles Pope.
The sixth commandment, you shall not commit adultery. This commandment is wide-ranging in its implications. It forbids us not only from committing the very act of adultery, but also other sexual sins such as fornication or premarital sex, watching pornography, and speaking lewdly. Likewise, homosexual acts and acts of masturbation are also forbidden us. And the Lord himself even enjoins us to a purity of mind that we should not freely entertain lustful thoughts. And so it's wide-ranging, it's challenging, but it's in service of the great sacredness of human life which comes from sexual activity. So we thank God for this great gift of sexuality, and we ask for his grace to live it with great reverence. The sixth commandment, you shall not commit adultery.
For more about the 10 Commandments, visit EWTNRC.com.
Hi, this is Janet Williams. We embrace the essence of feminine spirituality on Women of Grace tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
A lot of your calls still to get to here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, talking about your experience being adopted into another family. 833-288-3986. We have these conversations because these kinds of things, these topics that we bring up, we try to present topics to you, and some of them are presented by you for us to do on the show. But we just try to present topics that are going to touch people's lives, touch people's hearts, resonate with, and not everybody, but a good segment of the population. We have very, very busy phones here, so let's go right back to them. Andrew is next. He is listening in Rochester, New York on the Station of the Cross, and a first-time caller to Take Two. Hi, Andrew.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
on?
we can hear you. You are on. Go ahead.
Oh, awesome. All right. So I am a 21-year-old who lives in Rochester, New York. I was adopted when I was also very young, as one of the earlier callers was. I was adopted when I was 3 months old from Bogota, Colombia. Let's see. I came into a family that definitely had its difficulties. My parents were never really too close to each other. There was a lot of fighting in the house, and it wasn't the best situation to grow up in. But they were always very supportive of me in every decision that I chose, and they clearly, especially now that I look back on it, I can see the love that they had for me and the love that they also have for me now. I have a sister who is also adopted, not from the same family that I was, but from a different family. And she was adopted a year before I was, from Bogota also. She's from the same country that I am. I guess it's funny timing that you guys are having this program right now, because part of this whole journey was that I grew up without faith in the beginning of my life. My parents, I don't know what to call them. I'd call them more agnostic, atheists, and I grew up the same way. I always had a yearning to know truth and to go deeper into things. And then when I got into high school, and I got into, substances and stuff like that and alcohol, I turned to these things, and then I kind of went down a bad trail. It led me to the New Age world and, different forms of spirituality and religion. And about a year and 8 months ago or 9 months ago, there's obviously a bunch of grace involved, a bunch of stories that I won't get into, but basically God showed up in my life when I asked who God was, and I learned that he was Jesus Christ. And as a Protestant, I would say that he saved me. And I had a pretty radical conversion. And the even cooler part about calling right now is that throughout this entire experience for the past about a year, I've been discerning the Catholic faith and other faiths like Orthodoxy and whatever's truth, because that's how I came to the faith, was on the basis of truth. So I wanted to go deeper and deeper and to know Christ more. And basically I came into the Catholic Church 2 days ago on the Vigil of Pentecost. So it's good timing to call you guys. Yeah.
Wow, it sure is. Any time is a good time for a story like that, Andrew. Thank you, and thank God for what he's done in your life. God is always there. You had the experiences. You said the family had some issues, difficulty. The parents didn't always get along. But the beautiful thing is they loved you and they supported you. They affirmed you. They gave you that self-esteem, that self-confidence that you could then move forward in life and make important decisions, such as asking God to reveal himself. Who are you, God? And Jesus, they revealed himself to you. And your beautiful road into the Catholic Church. Congratulations. Welcome home. And Debbie, I'm sure you join me in saying that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Welcome home, Andrew. That is so amazing, your journey. Andrew, you're a first-time caller, and I know you're listening on the Station of the Cross, and we are broadcasting there at noon, so during lunch. I pray that you continue to be a sponge, Andrew, and you absorb everything you can about the Catholic faith and about your relationship with Jesus. Andrew, I feel it strongly. There's a vocation. I don't know where or how or what it is, but just be open, okay? There's a vocation there in you. I hear it. I hear it so quickly. As soon as you started speaking, the first sentence out of your mouth, I typed over to Jerry that there is I just feel a vocation. Have you ever prayed about it?
Oh boy, yeah. It's funny, just the whole like being a convert and coming to the Catholic faith. Something that I didn't have in Protestantism was the idea that our Lord and that Paul talked about, which was, to become a eunuch for the kingdom, or to, abstain from marriage, and that it's better for us and that we can do all these things. So yeah, I have been discerning a lot, and it's a tough thing. I'm a 21-year-old guy. Marriage is very appealing in many ways, but I have been discerning a lot, actually, and you may just be another answer to the prayers that I've been putting up and that a lot of people have been praying for me. So yeah, I have been discerning.
Wow. Well, that's beautiful, Andrew. And I have said for many, many years, I myself spent 6 years in priestly formation, did not go on to be ordained. But I always like to say every man and woman, child ever born into this world has what I call the obligation to at least ask the question. And that question is, God, what did you create me for? What is my purpose, my vocation, my calling in life? And as Debbie said, just be that sponge, soak things up. Obviously, just coming into the church is not the end of the journey. It's really just the beginning of what could be just a fascinating, grace-filled, blessed journey. And you could be assured, Andrew, of our prayers. We have a global audience. We call it the Take Two family. And you're now a member of that family, so you can hopefully feel those prayers going up from all of our listeners around the world. And we would love to, as Debbie says, kind of journey with you. If you're ever inclined to call us back or email us at take2@EWTN.com. We love to see how God is at work in people's lives. So keep that in mind. We'd love to kind of walk along this road with you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I don't know if you have time, or if you guys wanted to ask questions more specifically towards my experience as adoption, because I know the whole convert Catholic thing can kind of take away from it. So if there's any specific questions that you want me to answer about adoption and my experience growing up.
Well, go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, we do have full phone lines, but Andrew, real quick question. We would love to, and that's why Jerry offered our email, take2@EWTN.com, because we'd love to journey with you. But real quickly, you said your sister was adopted. She's not from, biologically related, but from the same area in Colombia, right? Did you naturally fall into kind of a relationship with her as a sister, or was it still a little difficult because you didn't come from the same mom?
Yeah, we naturally fell into something, whether it was a normal brother-sister relationship. I don't know if you could call it that, but my parents were extremely good, and I actually talked to my mom about this the other day. Wow, there's so many things that I could get into, because just the other day I read my letter from my birth mom for the first time, and it's obviously becoming a Christian was crazy, because I learned that her name is actually Graciela, which means grace. And I read in the letter, and she spoke about God. It's like 5 or 6 times, and I was like, wow. My mom was. It's like I learned where the prayers were coming from their source. Like she was probably praying for me, before I was born. So I didn't mean to get off on a tangent there, but yeah, it was. I've had an interesting relationship with my adopted family, but yeah, there's a lot to get into, but I know there's not enough time, so.
Right. Well, just that image that came to my mind, Andrew, when you talked about your mother writing that letter and talking about God, and she obviously was just really presenting you to God, is what she was doing. It reminded me of the presentation in the temple, when Mary and Joseph went to present Jesus to the Father. What were they doing? They were saying, Father, this is your child. You were the one who gave him to us to raise and to nurture and so forth, but he is here to fulfill your plan and your purpose. And it just seemed, I had that image of your mother doing the same thing for you. So, yeah, anyway, thanks, Andrew. We do have a bunch of other calls we want to try to get to here, but we would love if you would stay in touch with us, okay?
Yes, thank you guys so much. Thank you.
All right, God bless. Wow, that was neat.
Oh, he's amazing. He's amazing. Everybody's going, I wish he was our son, right? Andrew's awesome. Way to go, Andrew. Okay, Maureen is up next, and in Buffalo, New York, also listening on the Station of the Cross. And Maureen is one of our certified life coaches at StandTallToday.com. She is amazing. We love her. Welcome, Maureen.
Hi, Maureen.
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just fine, yeah.
All right. It's Holy Andrew. Holy cow. That was just incredible.
Yeah,
what
I
an
know.
amazing story. Oh, my gosh. But my story is, so I was an only child for 7 years. And I can just remember being a little girl praying on my knees before bed with my mom, just praying for a sibling. And my mom had fertility issues. And so we adopted my brother, Tim. And I can actually remember, like, it's my first memory, I can remember what I wore to the court hearing, and I remember my Mary Jane shoes and just being so excited to go to school with the picture of my brother. It was just so amazing. And sure enough, the way the story goes, months, within 10 months, my mother gave birth to another, and we ended up having 8 children total. So, I had this very special brother and then ended up with 6 more siblings. But he was just always so special. I can remember when my oldest daughter was born, he was our only blonde sibling, and she was blonde. And he would walk around and say, "Oh, she looks just like me," and it was just the cutest thing. And then sure enough, when he was in high school, young 16, 17-year-old kids, they found out they were expecting. And so, praise be to God, he and his young girlfriend, they had that baby. And they put her up for adoption, I think, through Catholic Charities. And, my mom, it kind of broke my mom's heart that, at least we knew this baby was out there somewhere. And it was a girl. And sure enough, she found him, like, in the last year and a half through the ancestry stuff. And, she's a beautiful mother now with 3 beautiful children. And my brother was adopted through Father Baker's. And which is, he's up for sainthood here in the Buffalo area. And, it's just everywhere I look, I just see these blessings from adoption. And it's just such a beautiful thing.
Wow. What a story. What a story, Maureen. You were talking about what you wore the day that the adoption went through. It made me think of what my husband and I, the outfits we put on when we went to the court when my sister-in-law adopted her beautiful baby girl. Anyway, and my brother adopted a baby girl as well. And the interesting thing is it's the love you feel in that courtroom, the love you feel afterwards. It is so, you can almost touch it, right, Maureen? Couldn't you just feel it?
Oh, Debbie, that's such a good way to put it. And I can almost feel it right now when you say that.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's just a lot of love, and it's beautiful. It's very different. It's a very different, I think, kind of an infusion or explosion of love. It's something that is so it kind of just radiates all around, and it's a beautiful thing because it shows how much you respect that human being. It shows how much you want that person, and it shows how much love you're able to give. And it's just all around that special person at that moment. And wow, Maureen, that brought me back down memory lane. Thank you so much. Maureen, you are such a great, you're great. You have a counseling background, plus you're a certified life coach at Stand Tall Today. Folks, get a free consultation with Maureen today. Please go to standtalltoday.com. Maureen, you are awesome. What do you think, Jer?
I think it's beautiful. Can't add anything to it. And yeah, I'm familiar with Father Baker and his Father Nelson Baker, his cause for canonization. Isn't he buried at that one church? Maureen, help me out here. I visited the church before in Buffalo.
I know. I'm trying to remember the name of the church too. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, gorgeous church.
Just slipped my mind. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, this is what a great story. It just shows, love begets love.
Yes.
Love begets love. And the more you love and you're open to life, God looks upon people like that and just says, okay, you're willing to raise more of my little images. Here you go. Here are some more. And what a fantastic story, Maureen. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Oh, thanks for having me, you guys. Have a great day.
Okay.
You too.
You as
God
well.
bless.
Great story. Boy, my heart is just bursting. You think about, and I just have to share something. My brother's little girl that he adopted, who's now, she's in her teenage years. She acts like me. That's what my brother says.
Really?
My brother says, yeah, he says she's a little Debbie. It's hilarious. So I just think it's so funny how, God just places just the perfect people in your path,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's so sweet.
Well, we're happy to have as partners here on EWTN Radio, the folks at the Sunrise Morning Show, and you'll hear them again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time, when they welcome Shane Kapler to continue the discussion on the Epistle of St. James, plus news, weather, sports, and a whole lot more. Really, it's your one-stop place. It's your all-in-one Catholic radio show, the Sunrise Morning Show, tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Eastern, on many of these same EWTN stations.
Good stuff. Francie is up next in Ohio, listening on the iHeart app. First-time caller as well. Look at all these first-time callers to take to on a Monday. You guys are awesome. Hi, Francie. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for
Hello.
having me.
You're welcome.
Hi. This is a topic that is so near and dear to my heart. I love hearing people talk about it for multiple reasons. My mother was placed in an orphanage at 2 in the 40s along with her older siblings. She was from orphanage to orphanage and foster home to foster home until 4th grade, when she was rejected by a foster family because she was a bedwetter. And the priest came to pick her up and take her back to the orphanage and stopped at a local store. And the fella behind the counter, asked, what are you doing? And he said, I'm just taking this little girl back to the orphanage. Nobody wants her. She was standing there. And the fella said, well, I'll take her home.
Wow.
And he took her home, and she was raised here in the town that we live in now until she married my father. And she found out later she had some, biological siblings, which she has been reunited with over the years. But she's a mother of 7 children, and she has 20 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. She's in her 70s now and a daily Mass attender, very faithful Catholic. And when I was 18 years old, I found myself in a crisis pregnancy situation, and she held my hand through the adoption process, giving her first grandchild up, helping me do that. And without her, none of that would have been possible. So she is a wonderful, loving, God-fearing mother, wonderful human.
Sounds like it. Yeah, it really does. What an amazing story, Francie. Thank you so much for sharing that. And the story you told, I just cringed a little bit when you were talking about the one adopted family not wanting to adopt your mother because she was a bedwetter. I was a bedwetter until I was about 7. Then being taken back by that priest and that amazing encounter at that store that you went into, or that she went into with the priest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just spontaneous. It's just like love just spontaneously burst out right there on the scene. And you could hardly expect something like that to happen, I would think. But see, God was right there in that situation. And your mom went on to be still as an amazing woman with all the kids and the grandkids and the great-grandkids. She's still young, only in her 70s. So hopefully she's enjoying all of those. But what a beautiful testimony of her.
Yes.
Love for you and your love for your child as well. I'm glad that you shared that. That's really moved my heart.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting how God works, how it came full circle to help you in your time when you needed it most, Francie. And when you got emotional, I got emotional as well. And it's interesting, it just makes me believe, it just reinforces the understanding of the fact that we're all created and we're all meant to be here and for a purpose and for a reason. And sometimes, sometimes I think we cut that purpose short, or we limit it, or we change it for whatever reason. But God has a plan. And for us to just let it unfold, and it unfolded beautifully in your situation. So I thank you for sharing. I know it must have taken a lot for you to share, but I'm so happy you felt comfortable sharing with all of us.
Well, he always finds gifts in our flaws. He every time there's been a flaw, it's been turned into some sort of loving gift.
That's right.
So
wow,
I'm happy to share it. Thank you for listening.
Oh,
You're
absolutely.
welcome. Yeah.
Call again, okay? You're not a first-time caller anymore, okay? Okay. Thank you.
We got a call from Alex in Panama City Beach, Florida, and he shared a quote that we have shared on the air here before. It's by Mark Twain. The 2 most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why.
That's right.
Yeah, folks, write that down. Write that down. Put it somewhere where you remember it every day. The 2 most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. Thank you, Alex, for calling that in.
And Brian from New York, called back, Jerry, gave you the name of the basilica.
Yeah,
You
Our
wanna
Lady
share
of
it?
Victory, yeah.
Our Lady of Victory.
In Lackawanna, New York, yeah.
That's another name I love to say.
I was
the
just going
town.
to say, that's going to go
Lackawanna.
down on your top 10 list of names.
I
city names,
love
yeah.
it. Cheektowaga, I love. I just love saying it. And you know my favorite, Walla Walla.
Walla Walla.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we have time for Sue? I hope we do.
Yeah, let's definitely
Okay,
go.
Sue in Peoria, Illinois, Holy Family Radio. Hi, Sue. We're running out of time, but we wanted to squeeze you in.
I just wanted to say that I was born before my mom was married, and I am very thankful. I thank God all the time that she kept me instead of adopting me out to someone. My grandparents took care of me all the time. They were fabulous. I was born into a wonderful family, and my mom did get married, and my dad adopted me when I was about 6. My problem is that I didn't find that out until I was like 45 years old. You know, I thought he was my biological dad, and he wasn't. And it kind of haunted me. It still haunts me to know who my real father would be, but I know he would be dead by now. My mother and my dad have both passed, but, you know, I was born into my dad was Lebanese and my mom was Danish. So I looked like my mom, and everybody else in the family looked like my dad more. And, you know, I asked my sister one time, my grandmother, I said, how's come everybody has dark hair and darker skin than me? And she said, she lied to me and said, oh, there's parts of Lebanon that have blonde hair. People have blonde hair and light skin, but she fibbed.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of haunted me my whole life.
Well, Sue,
And my
go ahead real quick.
I think people should be up front and tell children that they're adopted.
Yeah, I don't think I can disagree with you on that. I'd say, you know, an age-appropriate revealing of things like that, I think would have to be taken into account. But, you know, the beautiful thing is, Sue, you will know who your biological father is someday. God willing, we'll all be in heaven. And in the meantime, as I said earlier in the program, we all have an adoptive father, God the Father. And, of course, the church is our adopted mother, our Blessed Mother Mary. Today is the Feast of Mary, Mother of the Church. So we've got so many beautiful things, Debbie, to be thankful for. And, Sue, we're so glad that you called in. Thank you very, very much. Tim in Kalamazoo, you've got a great perspective on this, Tim. We'd love to hear a little bit more about it if you wish to email us at take2@ewtn.com.
This was a great, great show. I hope you go back and listen to it again on YouTube or Facebook. Tomorrow's show, do you love enough to tell someone the hard truth about things happening, going on, what you observe? Interesting discussion we're going to have tomorrow. Be prepared for it, and that's on Take Two for Tuesday.
Yeah, things like someone living a certain way, maybe in a sinful pattern or something. It's difficult sometimes. We have to love enough, like Debbie said, to tell the hard truth. That's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. In the meantime, we thank the show team, affiliates. Thank you for carrying the show. Have a beautiful and blessed day, and St. Joseph, pray for us. Amen.